Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:30. Shall we begin the meeting? Nelda, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Commissioner Gossick Sideman,
Present.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Present.
Mayor Hillman,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Tercivia. Thank you.
Thank you. Would we all rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just a reminder, cell phones, please. Okay, first thing is approval of the agenda. Anybody have any adjustments to be made to the agenda? Nope. Okay, can we have a motion, please, to accept it?
I move we accept the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have some proclamations for this month. First is the Building Safety Month for the month of May. And I'll read a few segments of it, and I think we have some people here from there. So thank you for coming. Whereas the town of Highland Beach is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure, both in the everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the residents in our buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion and vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials. These modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms. Well, not down here, but certainly up north. Tornadoes, fires, floods, and earthquakes. Whereas the 2020 theme, Safety for All Building Codes and Actions, encourages all of us to raise awareness about planning for safe and sustainable construction, career opportunities in building safety, understanding disaster mitigation, energy conservation, and creating a safe, abundant water supply for all who benefit. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2020 as Building Safety Month in the town of Highland Beach, and in doing so, encourage all citizens to commit to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and acknowledge the essential service provided by all of us, by our building department and fire prevention officials in protecting our lives and property. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the town of Highland Beach to be affixed this third day of May 2022. And if you would come up, we could take a photo. Hold this. Somebody going to take a picture?
Where's Jeff?
Couple of smiles now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Drinking Water Week. There when you need it, May 1st through May 7th. Turn the faucet on, the water comes out. Kind of important. Okay. Yes, it does.
Yes.
But I'm not sure which is, I think most important is the drinking of it though. Okay. Whereas water is the most important natural resource, and whereas drinking water serves a vital role in daily life, serving an essential purpose to health, hydration, and hygiene needs for the quality of life for all of our citizens. The coronavirus pandemic has shown a light of the importance of drinking water for hydration, health, and hygiene needs. We all experienced that, unfortunately, for the last 2 years. We're all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend, and whereas the citizens of our town called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their own water usage. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby proclaim the May 1 through May 7th, 2022 as Drinking Water Week. In witness, wherefore, I have hereto set my hand and caused the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, to be fixed this third day of May 2022. Come on up, we'll get a photo.
Now for some fire water.
Now we have the 53rd Professional Municipal Clerk Week. Should be a month, not a week.
Oh, for sure,
How do we make it a
for
month?
sure.
May 1 through May 7, 2022, whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of the local government, exists through the world. And the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants. And the Professional Municipal Clerk serves as the information center and functions of local government and community. The professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of the state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. It is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Hillman, Mayor of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission, do hereby recognize the week of May 1 through May 7 as Professional Municipal Clerk Week. And therefore extend appreciation to our town clerk, Lynelda Gaston, and staff, and to all professional municipal clerks for their vital service they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. And witness, wherefore, I therefore set hand and cause the official seal of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, to be affixed this third day of May 22. Come on down.
Okay. You can come over here. One more.
Thank you, ladies.
That's a record, 3 proclamations.
Mhm.
Okay, now we're on to public comments. Anybody have any comments they would like to make? Jack, go right ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Halpern. I live at 45 Ocean Condominium and have been a town resident now for 26 years. Didn't seem that long, but it actually is. And I thoroughly enjoyed each of those years here. As I've mentioned before, this commission, I've taken a role with CSHB and look forward to working with the commission on areas of mutual interest. I'm coming before you today because I need to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, I want to thank our town manager, Labadi, for the very newsy town manager report that he recently sent out. This is information as a resident I want to see coming out on a regular basis with updates. I believe the prior newsletter was October 2021. These are good newsletters. Why can we not have more regular basis on the updates of what's happening on this town? Perhaps some of the key things on a regular monthly basis, say the first of the month. Thank you for this newsletter. Now for the bad. I understand that the town is facing a possible lawsuit from a resident in one of the single homes along the ocean. I understand that it's related to a meeting that was held probably back about a year ago when I was on the Natural Resources Committee. I understand now that that resident is in the process of filing a lawsuit against the town related to beach rakers. I, for one, well, I would say that the beach is the jewel of our town, which I put that in the notes and I passed over it, and I should not have passed over it. I, for one, would like to know more about what is happening and would appreciate hearing about how it may possibly affect usage and maintenance of the beach. Lastly, as to the ugly, I attended 2 prior meetings in person and then this last meeting through YouTube. It was disheartening to me to hear more complaints about this last charter referendum. There seems to be a feeling among some commissioners that the town folks who came out for the election, or at least 60% of them, really didn't read what the commission was sending out either by their own hand or through the public relations firm Pace. Thus, it had to be that they just made a last-minute decision and voted for yes or no, but probably didn't know what they were voting for. I remember one Saturday morning while I was sitting on A1A, I had an 85-year-old gentleman with a cane walking down the street. I asked him, was he familiar with the upcoming referendum? And he said, yes, strongly, and that he would be voting. I asked, could I provide you with information about the referendum? He looked at me sternly and said, all one has to do was just read what they wrote on the ballot and there would be no other way to vote. I did not need any more information. He was part of the 60%. I would hope that commission members can finally get off of it and stop calling out at least 60% of the residents of town who voted either not intelligent or not caring. That's the ugly fact that has been happening. It's time to move on. Okay, moving to signage. Just want to inform you that CSHB has received numerous feedback on the town signs. They range from, why do we need a sign? Can't we do something with the existing signs to fix them up? Why are we spending $100,000? Why was the Pace public relations firm hired to do these mock-ups, which were presented at prior meetings, and what were they paid? No one seemed to like these mock-ups, including the commission members. I know for one, have actually looked at the sign on the south side of the town, and yes, it needs to be replaced. If we're going to have a sign, it must be replaced. It was full of rot. I commend our vice mayor for the very excellent approach for citizen involvement. Thank you. And thank you, commissioners, for the time this afternoon to address you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we will close the public comment segment and move on to board vacancies. Natural Resources Preservation Advisory Board has 2 vacancies now because one gentleman is not going to continue. Upcoming meetings, May 9th, Financial Advisory Board at 11:30, May 10th, Code Enforcement at 1 o'clock, May 12th, Planning Board at 9:30, May 17th, Town Commission meeting, and May 25th, is it? Marshall, 25th, 1:30 commission meeting?
24th.
24th, a
1:30.
special commission meeting at 1:30. No board action reports. Let's move on to ordinances. Can be found on page 13. And we'll turn this over to Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. When we, a couple of meetings ago, discussed the financial RFP process for procuring a bank loan to cover a portion of the cost of the implementation of the fire station in the fire department, We said that one of the processes we had to follow, kind of a belts and suspenders approach, is to put an ordinance in place to do and authorize the borrowing of funds. So this will be the first read. You'll see a blank at the top of the page. Whoever is the maker of the motion, if they so desire to put not to exceed 5.1, just kind of like when we do our tax rate, a maximum, we're not going to go any higher than that, but that gives us room to whatever the fees are through the bank products or the bank's proposals. There are some legal costs that you may have to cover depending on which one you take. So this would be the first step. And again, kind of going through our schedule. So we do a first read today. On the 9th, for those that are watching 11:30, the Financial Advisory Board will be reviewing the recommendation and reviewing the 11 proposers of bank loan products. There's probably about 15 options. Skip, you say about 15 options that are out or available. The FAB is going to go through all of those and make a structured recommendation to the town board, who on 5/17 will discuss and either accept that recommendation or make an adjustment if you so choose. We'll do a second read. And at that 17th, you're kind of going to acknowledge for us a tentative award, the proposal you want to move forward with. The following Tuesday at that special board meeting is when we will approve the final loan agreement and the award resolution. So that's the process we go in. This is the first step. Just to give you a little bit of background, we did go out the RFP. They closed last week on the 28th. We got 11 proposals. We did a really great job. But with that, we have a lot of intricacies to go through. So the FAB is going to have a nice, strong, difficult meeting to kind of go through all of the options, various interest rates, other options and products. So that's going to be a good meeting. So we did well. So we have a very attractive options out there for the loan amount. So that is going to move forward for us. Again, we are pursuing or following the best interest provision of our purchasing policy that allows us to go through this best practice that we utilize today, or this process, I should say. So, once we approve this resolution today, and then we'll be in the next steps. Every week we got something cooking. So that's all good for us. So have any questions? I could answer any questions. Also, Skip Miller, our bond counsel, is here as well. If you have any more legal questions.
One question. Why is it non-ad valorem taxes?
Because we did a covenant to budget and appropriate, because if we were going to pledge ad valorem, we would then have to go get a secondary approval from the voters to, if you will, sell bonds. But when we looked at our financial conditions, we wanted to, since we were going to pledge a large sum of cash, bonding wasn't necessary, and we could take a bank loan to supplement. So that's the other provision by which we could take a loan, is to other revenue streams besides the ad valorem could be pledged to cover those costs.
Do we have enough in non-ad valorem?
Yep, we went through what's the test called? The anti-dilution test. I know that David's here too. Our new finance director went through that process. So we're healthy and proved to the banks. We got 11 proposals. So obviously they agree with us that we have a strong non-ad valorem strength to take a loan.
So Commissioner David,
Position financial.
I think the key point though is that by us using non-ad valorem funds, we're not evading, the whole concept of having to go to a referendum.
No. Quite the contrary.
Right.
The voters approved the 10 million request. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify so that, we're all up front and there's no, as has been suspicions in the past as to what we're doing here. It's all straight up.
It was a
We have the
plan,
money,
yes.
we got it in reserves, we've got it in our budget. It's a covenant to the budget.
I have a question. So all the background information on these 11 proposals, when the interest payments are due and all that, will that be in the agenda for the FAB meeting?
Sure. And when we get that together, you'll get it at the
Okay.
same time. So
Okay.
everybody will see it's
Okay.
pretty complex.
Right.
I know that Mr. John Ford, who's our financial advisor, is following up with a few questions with the bank so he can finish his evaluation. So you can really see or have the ability to compare each option against others for cost, time, benefits that come with different types of options. So Again, we had hoped that we would see a couple five, kind of in that range. We got 11. Some banks offered us 3. I mean, so we did really well.
Mhm.
So I think people were quite satisfied with our financial position and wanted to.
So the total expenses of the loan, any prepayment penalties or any other quirky little, that will all be in the
Correct,
documentation
correct.
that we will have available.
Yep.
And it'll be communicated when the agenda is communicated? Is that
Yeah,
what
we'll
it is?
get to you
Okay.
right away so you can see
Okay.
all of that, and he'll have a
Okay.
big spreadsheet that'll compare everything against each other.
So really the meat of the meat that I like to look at is for this FAB. It'll be included in the agenda for the FAB. It'll be the first time that we really get to see the meat
Sure,
of it. all.
sure. Again, the sunshine laws that prevail in the state of Florida kind of limit my ability to talk about a lot of the details
Right.
today because I was
Sure.
one of the openers of said proposal. So
Okay,
yes, you will be getting that heavy lift. The FAB will go through it. And like I said, that's why I added, I know in consult with Skip that we thought it would be good to have one more meeting out, because if we move forward with the FAB recommendation, there is at times some financial or legal costs that will accrue on behalf of the lender. And if you decide not to go with their recommendation,
Okay.
we would have to repay that
right.
bank for whatever that time is. So we
Right.
thought we had the opportunity. Again, some of the proposals gave us lots of time on locked and or indicative rate structure. So it was good for us we could do this. So the extra meeting gives us that opportunity that if you change your mind on the 17th from the FAB, we have that opportunity.
So they are committing to us whatever interest rate is underlying the loan when you communicate it to us for the FAB. It will be that interest rate if we decide, I
It
guess, on the
depends.
May 24th.
It'll
Okay.
depend. Some are locked, meaning they'll hold it to a date specific.
Right.
Others are indicative, means it's this formula
Okay.
that's derived based on a treasury rate, blah,
Got it.
blah, blah. But again, as my understanding, and we discussed, when you see those indicative rates, they've already kind of calculated in the market variability that we're expected to see in the interest rates in May is already kind of, most of the market already knows it's coming and have built it into there. So there shouldn't be a lot of movement on that indicative or kind of that float rate that they gave us to a certain period of time. And that's only a couple of the banks gave the indicative, some gave us locked. So
And
we have a
that'll
lot of
be-
great options.
And that will be obvious in the documentation. Okay,
Yep.
good.
Anything else?
Any more questions?
So
I got
again,
tons of them, but you're not going to answer them.
probably not, probably not. And if I started to, Glenn would throw something at me or Skip, one of the two. So we'll wait to have the conversation starting on the 9th, and then it'll be open and public, and we'll be able to really drill into a lot of those details.
Okay, we got to wait and see.
You'll be very pleased. How about that? That's the thing is we did really well. We really did. And I'm quite pleased on the process and what it procured for us. Really.
Gave
We
us
did really
lots of
well.
options.
We did really, really well.
Okay, we'll wait. You were reaching, you have something?
No, I am going to make a motion. We
Okay,
have
go
to
ahead.
accept this.
Go ahead.
I move that we accept an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach authorizing the issuance of the town's non-ad valorem revenue note, Series 2022, in the principal amount not to exceed 5.1 million to provide for the construction and equipping of a new fire station and costs relative thereto.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on. Unfinished fire rescue implementation update. Back to you.
Okay, yeah. We'll also hit in a moment, which will be an interesting conversation. Kaufman Lynn's here with us to talk about our pre-construction service piece that relates to the design and construction of the fire station. I'll get a little bit into that to kind of foreshadow it so it can bounce around before we get to the actual details of the agreement. Basically, is we need to get the contractor, because no more important than it is today to bring the contractor into the design process from our preliminary conversations that we had to really anticipate logistics, the availability of supplies, scheduling, all of that. So we want to get them on board early. So the first part of a CM at risk is the pre-construction service piece. We want to get that going so we can really start making headway on design and know what we can or can't build or what the implications on timing and cost. So that was the first part. Once we work through that design and pre-construction services, then we'll get to that, that traditional CMAR type of either a gross maximum price or a stipulated sum, some variant of that once we get to that. And we'll know, as you could see from there, there's certain deliverables that will be given through this. So we'll know at a hard 30% design what our costs are looking, 50, 70. And that way, when we get to the end to go, everybody knows exactly what we're building, how much it's going to cost, and when it's going to be done. So that's been a lot of lifts here, along with the RFP process we just went through with the financing to get the money. So right now you're looking at half cash, half loan. Is kind of how we're going to pay for all of this. As you can imagine, in this interest rate market and some of the supply chain issues we're seeing, the costs are escalating on us. And that's why we're really working right now on every point to see where we can put in controls and take moments to really take a look at it. I'm glad we built and picked a number with a sizable contingency, but it looks like that contingency, while sizable a year ago, boy, that really hit us when Kaufman Lynn is saying they're running into 28% cost increases over the last 12 months. Wow, we need to really start taking a look. So we're running into a little bit of that. EMS vehicle, we got that in play. We'll hopefully get you some package to approve shortly. Working on a little bit of the graphic designs on it so you see the full package. But that type 1 rescue, we've got it down to the final little pieces. Staff is working on putting together what I'm going to call this large matrix of expenditures regarding supplies, equipment, power lift chairs, EKG monitors, Band-Aids, drugs, you name it. We're going to have this master sheet for you. And I'm going to ask for some overall blanket approval, because then we're going to start going and getting those off of cooperative, like sheriff's office. Was it NASPO? Yeah. NASPO, there's another national purchasing cooperative. We can buy some stuff. We're setting up a contract with the drug company. We're also going to then work with our medical director to see if we can enter into a favorable relationship with the Boca Regional Hospital to help us in that kind of area as well. So when, we take a patient there, we can pick up some, sounds weird to pick up some drugs on the way out, but pick up some drugs on the way out to replenish our supply and kind of keep everything moving, and then using their storage facilities a little more than having to store our own. We also are actively recruiting for a fire chief. So we're out on, I sent you the job description and the job announcement. So we've gone out onto ICMA, International Fire Chiefs, FCCMA, and then those kind of kick out to other groups for that listing. So that'll go to about June 1st, where I'm hoping to have a first read of applications. If we have a decent number of candidates, then we will set up a process by which you will all get a chance to meet the final candidates after an internal review to give you the best possible candidate, so you guys can go through that and make that choice. Supply list, that's pretty much the big lifts. Again, other than that, it's all the COPCN documents, all the little things. We've got that pretty well in place. We've got it down by section of each one of the COPCN. I look over Tricia and Eric, they always nod when we make sure we get all the details, but we have all these folders, all these random documents, medical procedures, complaint resolution process, all the stuff that the county wants to see in that process for the pilot program that they've kind of laid out before us. We're hoping to get a draft submittal into them by midsummer, so they could take a look at it and say, do they need more or less? And we'll really start to know where we're gonna fall into that placement. So everything is moving, doing well. Just the fire station and the financing are the big pieces that are moving at this point in time.
Just expand on a couple of quick points that you made. One, the reason that you're going to get a full listing of everything to approve, that way we don't have to come each time to the commission on each item. even though some items are over the $25,000. That way you get a list of everything that they're compiling it, get one shot and it's done. The other thing on medical supplies is many of them have expiration dates. So that way, like what he was saying is we get the relationship set up. Well, you've got a husband. Okay. That way we don't have to worry. We have minimal supplies go on and get them replenished. Okay. Thank you. Anything else for Marshall? Any questions?
I guess any concerns at this point, Major? I mean, I know you mentioned getting through the financing, but it sounds like we're on a good path there. Any major concerns?
Yeah, the ulcer developing right there. No, no, I think it's going pretty good. I mean, it's the fire station stuff, I think is going to be
Money and time.
money and time, right? I mean, that's everything that we have in play, all the irons that are in there. That is going to be the trick. And we'll probably start to really hone in, I think, over the next couple of months as to what exactly we're building. We have an idea. You've all sent me on that course, okay? It's a matter of, can we afford it? Does it look just like that, or start getting better, better drawings, if you will, better details on the programming interior to the stations, temp station? What are those options looking like for us? The cost as we hone in on that, timing. And again, our target that we're working with now is we're looking for, October, November, as we're really squeezing to really make some on the ground progress. I know it seems far out there, but we got to figure out the price, the design, architect. Kaufman Lynn's got to help us, how they're going to tie in all of the subs, what is really available. If steel's not available, is it a PSI joist? All this stuff that the experts will help us kind of, bring in and nail down, and, we'll go from there. But we're on schedule. We're still within the cost parameters. I haven't hit any red buttons, just, it's a little bit stressful. I'm hoping the market cools as far as just doesn't keep going where it's constantly increasing like that. I think we'll, could pose some problems if it doesn't start providing some relief or flatlining the costs a little bit. That could get us.
Do our current firefighters from Delray, do they know there's going to be a temporary station, or what is the timing? Are there any agreements that need to be in place?
Yes and no.
Okay.
When I say yes, they know that it needs to be done because we got to build a fire station. They got to go somewhere. I would say no, is I just don't know exactly what to tell them yet. So if I was to go to Chief Tommy, I've had real basic, like, hey, we're going to do this. I don't know what to present him as to, or a schedule of to when, like, here's a plan and I need the guys and gals moved on October 1, November 15th, August. I don't know what that is. And sharing with them, here's where they go. Here's what it looks like. Here's the logistic response. Here's the trucks are going to go here, so those types of things are still up in the air. And I don't want to get people really worked up, even though they probably are starting to hear more and more. I think there are people out there that don't believe us still are going to do this, but I don't know what they're looking at, because we're out the, horses out of the barn. So we're hitting the track here. That's my Kentucky Derby. Don't forget Saturday. So, we're on the tracks and we're running. So I just don't have a good detail to tell them, for timing and exactly where or how the arrangements are.
And we're within any expected time period, like to tell, there is no expectation to give them a certain amount of lead time or anything.
We
like
will.
that.
I'll be sure to give them at least, 60 to 90 days lead
Okay.
time so they can prepare for that, or give them opportunity to provide some feedback just from their operational basis. I think I was a little bit more nervous at first. Mr. Joseph has allayed some of my fears that this is a very common practice, so long as we do something that works and accommodates the basic needs. As long as we provide them somewhere to operate from, they have to operate from there. It can't be some subpar, like you got to get in a car and drive a mile to get on the rig. It's all there ready to go. They should be fine. Bathrooms, all that stuff. Yeah.
And then mutual aid agreements, no concerns at this point.
Well, we have a mutual aid agreement, and I remember that Mr. Joseph had explained that how it works from local to county to state to federal. That's in play. Some of the other Smaller agreements, I think will come once we've established ourselves or an on the ground presence, so they know what they're dealing with. And again, I think some, for lack of better words, don't want to get involved just yet because we're still early in the breakup and separation phase from Delray. They don't want to feel like they're picking sides or getting involved early to spur the change. So
Yeah,
once we get
it's
to the point, to do
It's
that.
premature at this point.
Yeah.
Is it?
Sit down
Okay, I
for
didn't
all
know
that.
what the
Yeah.
timing was.
But we have it, so I don't want anyone to go like, no, if we need help, no one's coming, they're coming. So,
So we basically have the mutual
Mhm.
agreements that are the bare necessities, but I guess as
the
we,
most tricky one for me would be the hazmat, but the county hazmat protocol already exists.
Okay.
Everybody's part of it and it's part of the system. So those are like really specialty one-off for a small agency we just can't do, but it doesn't matter. The county already does it. Even here now, when we have a hazmat issue, Boca comes and could be the first response before Delray, even just because they're all in this hazmat group that's kind of sponsored and paid for by the county and some federal grants. So,
I think we even covered that in the last meeting.
so we're gonna be in good spots. It's just,
To have a written formal agreement at this point is premature.
okay,
They have to physically see what you have, and
oh, okay,
the term mutual is a key.
okay.
Questions
Anything
on
else?
the PSA itself?
I'm sorry?
Can I ask a question about the professional service agreement itself?
well, we wait till we get to
Well,
it.
we're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I got questions on that as well.
Okay.
But we got a ways to go. Easy.
I'm ready at the gate.
Okay, anything else on fire implementation? Okay, thank you. Move on to the mission statement and vision statement update. Turn it over to you,
Yes,
Natasha.
thank you.
Thank you for doing all the work. by the way.
Oh, yes, and I believe you submitted an alternative as well, right? Correct, Mayor? This is from you. There was another one submitted.
Page 20, by the way.
Yep, page 20 of your packet. So I listened to the meeting again to make sure I captured the essence of the input received. What I tried to do was to also keep it as brief and to the point as possible, because if you make it too lengthy, it's hard to grab onto. So Lynelda, if you advance it, yeah, there we go. So the proposed that I came up with after listening to it several times, the town of Highland Beach is a beautiful, safe harbor in paradise whose residents never want to leave. I had dropped the harmonious community. I felt like I got mixed reviews on that, and the addition of the whose residents never want to leave, I felt kind of captured not only the harmonious community concept, but also brought in a lot of other concepts that I thought captured it well. Beautiful, safe harbor. There were comments about the beauty of the situation that we have here, harbor, that to reflect the water, how much, water is an influence on our community here. Another alternative that I received, the town of Highland Beach is a safe harbor that operates for the needs of its residents with solid governance and tight financial controls. So gets more specific with the governance and the financial controls. But I liked whose residents never want to leave, because I kind of felt that it actually captured all of that. And then the mission, what I felt like all the feedback was pointing to is to provide exceptional governance and municipal services in partnership with our residents in a fiscally responsible manner with a focus on town planning. I really liked the word partnership, and I also thought that it brought in that harmonious community that I originally wanted within these concepts, because it truly is, I believe that we are here and want to be in partnership with the residents. So I thought that was a key piece. And having it the fiscally responsible and town planning, I felt that brought in the financial aspect of how important that concept is for us. And then also out of the last meeting, I felt we kind of wanted a motto. So I have 2 mottos here: safe seaside harbor and home, and 3 miles of paradise. And so then on the bottom of the page, I just kind of included just some of the key concepts that I felt that this proposal embodied. An alternative mission is Highland Beach executes resident outreach, has stringent financial controls and municipal services that meets the needs of its population while continually planning the town's strategic requirements with maintaining effective governance. Sorry, it's not, I wish it was kind of up there, but you don't have a copy of it, unfortunately, but. So I guess I want to maybe flip back. Thanks, Lynelda. What do you guys think of the vision and mission as proposed? We can also talk about the alternative as well. Maybe start with John.
Can I comment first?
Oh, go
please?
ahead. Absolutely.
I think this is great. I provided the one that you don't have listed because it came late, but I think this is better. I think this captures everything that we talked about. I think it flows well. I think the vision is simply stated, easily understood. I think it covers the aspects that we wanted covered. The mission supports the vision well. It covers also the things that we've been talking about. Fiscal responsibility, we talk about all this time. Focus on planning, we talk about all the time. Municipal services we do. We talk about outreach to residents. You brought in partnership with residents. I like that even better than outreach with residents. I think it's quite good. In terms of motto, you know I love 3 miles of paradise, so I don't have to talk about it. I think it's quite good. And I think it really hits it. And I'm surprised that you got there this quickly. Usually it takes several months. Those are my comments.
I have 2 minor
Okay.
comments. Basically, I like it, and I agree, 3 miles of paradise, because you're already talking about safe harbor in the vision. In the vision statement, I wonder if we need the comma after beautiful. That's the only change
Okay.
I would make, is
Okay.
taking that comma out.
Good point.
And in the mission statement, I think I would prefer focus on planning for the future.
Okay, that's a good one.
And otherwise, I think it's great. I think it's there, short, understandable, not complicated, and not boring.
Thank you. John?
So I have a few comments.
If you don't like it, we don't want to hear about it.
As far as the proposed vision, I don't see where the resident input on financial control should be added in the vision, so to speak. That to me is mission. But in the proposed vision, I would say, add 2 words: to keep the town of Highland Beach a beautiful safe harbor in paradise. Now, adding the whose residents never want to leave, that's good or not. I'm good either way on that. If you wanted to keep it short, to me, it's to keep, the vision is to keep the town of Highland Beach a beautiful safe harbor in paradise.
I do have a comment about that, and I don't know if I should interrupt now, but so the vision is what we ultimately see ourselves. It's not what we're striving for. It's not, it is what our ultimate vision is. So that would be something I would raise to you,
Right.
is to keep, it does not reflect what our
Well,
ultimate vision
And
is.
the feedback is from the referendum. I mean, I did hear an awful lot, okay, have to admit, after the fact, that a number of residents don't want any really big improvements. They just want to keep it the way it is, right? So I'm thinking, okay, of course it's going to include improvements because in our mission statement, we're going to talk about that. But in terms of the vision, it's really to keep what we have. And yes, improve it, but that's the vision, is to keep it the beautiful safe harbor that it is. And it is paradise. Now, this is open for debate. I'm just trying to give you another option here that retains most of what you have, but the focus maybe is a little tweaked. Now, the mission: to provide exceptional governance and municipal services, agreed. Emphasizing partnership with our residents to be fiscally responsible with a focus on future planning and project execution. Because right now we're in the middle of a major project that needs to be executed over several years. So I would make that a little bit longer, but again, I'm emphasizing the partnership because I think partnership is a key word with our residents, and learn again to be more and partner with our residents, to be fiscally responsible with a focus on future planning and project execution. Now, based on those two and the motto, I guess I'm more of a marketing guy, and I'm thinking, what would I see on a banner that says this is our motto, or in a license plate frame or something? And I'm thinking, I always hear one word to describe Highland Beach. There's a whole dictionary, but there's one word that everybody uses, and that's paradise. So why not just simply say, relax, you're in paradise. That's it.
See, I think some of those are redundant. Future planning is redundant. Planning is always future. You're not planning the past. You're not planning the present. Planning is for future.
Okay.
Um,
Town planning or just planning?
Well, it says with focus on town planning.
I know, but you could delete town too. Just say planning.
I could, with focus on planning. You could take town out, but
I understand.
planning what?
Yeah.
Planning the people, you're planning the money, you're planning sewers, you're planning, what are you planning?
Okay,
Town
I understand that
planning says
future
I'm
may
planning
be
everything for the
redundant,
town.
but I think it should be in there anyway.
I'm sorry,
because
what are you saying?
I said, I understand that future may be technically redundant, but I think I would put it in anyway because it makes it a clearer statement. And as far as,
Would you take town out then? Planning, focus on future planning?
yeah, focus on future plans, so planning for the future or
All right,
something like that.
so you trade the word town for future. I'm for less words better, so if you want to trade, I'm with you.
I'm telling you, I can trade. No problem.
And I think
Oh, I'm
your
sorry, you're not
opening
done.
to the mission statement, to the vision, really would be better in the mission statement than in the vision. This is what we see. This is how we want to get there.
Correct. That's what our leader was saying. She's
Thanks,
right.
Mayor. First of all, to speak freely, I don't know if anyone has ever read these many times before and until we're bringing it up. So I'm glad we're tackling it. Once we decide, I'd like to see an inclusion of this information on mailings and website and so forth. But going back to the planning, I think we need an adjective like sensible planning. Obviously, we're planning for the town, but I think an adjective would be helpful there. And I think what I hear most often everywhere is our safety and security, and I think that needs to be in there. That's what people think of. Paradise, but sensible, safe and secure. For the motto, I still like what I brought up a couple meetings ago. I like our seaside home and safe harbor, because even people with a second home really feel like this is a home, especially after COVID. So I think it's smoother and has a nice flow to say our seaside home and safe harbor. And
Well, we're
Those are
not
my
always going to
comments.
agree.
And we can use it in, I mean,
it's just a better flow to me. It's the word, it's the SH.
See, I think it's
I think
far too
home
wordy.
needs to be in there because people feel at home here. They relax, they walk on the sidewalk on the beach. I think they need to feel it's a home, a second home or a first home. Other than that, I think it's very well done and thought out. I think we need to keep it simple and clear.
For sure.
We don't need a lot of $5 words, just
Yeah.
what people can remember in 3 seconds. Thank you.
so I think the vision can, I can delete the comma. The town of Highland Beach is a beautiful, safe harbor and paradise whose residents never want to leave. I really like that. The mission to provide exceptional governance and municipal services, emphasizing our partnership with our residents in a fiscally responsible manner with a focus on planning for the future.
We might want to eliminate envision, want to leave. Maybe it's just whose residents never leave.
Okay,
Wait, where was vision, Mayor?
you're, so
What are you
who's,
Where are you
Safe-
talking?
Safe harbor in
Right.
paradise whose residents never leave. Just
Okay.
eliminate the want to.
okay.
Sounds like they're chained.
Yeah, that's simpler.
It's like,
The town of Highland Beach
Keeps
is a
it simple.
beautiful, safe harbor and paradise whose residents never leave.
you can never leave. It's a little worrisome. Also, if we
Really?
just focus on harbor, I think it's too much emphasis on just the water boating community. You don't want to think that you have to have boat to harbor here. I strongly feel we need home in there. It's not just a harbor. There's a lot of non-boaters, even non-water people.
I guess I read harbor to not necessarily only be
Yeah.
a
it's
place
No,
to
I
dock your
understand
boat.
that, but
I-
not-
I
not
meant-
everyone
I
will
thought
read
was
it
like
that
a
way.
metaphor for
Exactly.
home.
Not everyone will read it
Safe
that way.
place.
Yeah, but
It's-
let's
yeah.
be practical. How many people are actually going to read this? to
Yeah,
That's
it's
what I
really for
said.
us. It's really for us so that
That's
we
what I
all
said.
kind of know.
So
Um,
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah, it's seaside harbor. It's generic,
yeah. Okay,
water oriented, that's all.
I think
So
we-
what did we change on the mission then? What did you do? Read it again,
So
please.
the mission to provide exceptional governance and municipal services, emphasizing partnership with our residents in a fiscally responsible manner with a focus on planning for the future.
I'm okay with that.
So am I.
I think it's good. It's good enough for what we have. We can always tweak it. We can tweak it when we revisit the
It might
strategic
be
plan.
emphasis on future planning as opposed to planning for the future. With emphasis on future planning.
It's a lot of emphasis, though.
I still like
emphasis of
sensible
partnership.
planning.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to use emphasis twice.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
we need an
I
adjective
think
there.
we could keep out, just say in partnership with our residents with an emphasis on future planning,
Yeah,
planning for the future. So put the emphasis part
Okay,
on the second half as opposed to the first.
agreed, agreed.
good.
Can't we
Yeah, you
incorporate
might use it twice.
safety and security somewhere? I really think
That's
that's, you
municipal services. That's governance and municipal.
think it's
services.
understood?
Safe harbor, safe. you've
Yes.
got- I mean. you
Okay, got
safe
it.
in-
That's
I
true.
think
Yeah,
it's,
you got
Okay,
it.
it's
got it.
understood.
That way we can stay 3 miles of paradise.
Right.
Okay, sounds good. I'll send
So-
it to, we'll put it in the strategic planning document and thank you very much for everybody's input.
Do we
Well
get
done.
bumper stickers with this?
Good
We'll
job.
talk about how else to
Yeah, thank you.
communicate this. Thank you.
I'm telling you, I've done this before and it takes months.
I know, it does take a long time.
It's. Okay, now we move on to town entries design concept contest 24.
I'm very energized by this topic. I'm looking forward to perhaps using this as an opportunity to get residents' juices flowing and get in the habit of being more involved in the town. So if you mind advancing one. So I put together an outline of what I thought how we could incorporate resident input into the town entry signs. So it's on page 24 of your agenda. So I kind of just drafted a skeleton of how this could potentially go. So I'm thinking it would be some sort of contest that we would communicate to all residents, and we would encourage them to submit designs for the town entry signs. And we could communicate via email blast, on the website, social media, hard copy in town hall, and with the manager's minute. And that these announcements would include why we're doing this, to make it very clear. I think we all can see that the signs are in poor condition and beyond repair, and that it's an opportunity for our residents to design the town entry signs. And we would communicate what the specifications of the signs would be. And we would obviously give them instructions on how to submit signs. So I'm thinking they could take photos of other signs that they like, or perhaps do a free hand drawing and submit those. I'm thinking it's not that difficult to set up an email where people could either attach those photos or their drawings, and we would also maybe have an inbox that we could put on the front desk that people could just drop them off if they have a hard copy. We would specify a due date, and we would specify how the winner would be determined. And in my opinion, the biggest winning is to have bragging rights for the winning design. I was thinking that there would be a 2-week period at which you would, all the ideas need to be submitted as of a certain date. We would share what those ideas are and give everyone 2 weeks to cast votes. Another benefit, if you submit a sign, you get 2 votes. So I'm thinking you would probably vote for your own sign and then vote for somebody else's sign. Anybody who serves on a board or the commission, I'm thinking would get 2 votes so that we have a little bit more say. And then any other resident who doesn't serve on a board and didn't submit an idea would get 1 vote. And then of course the design with the highest vote would win. And then that is my recommendation. And we can take comments from everyone. If you agree, I can oversee this and sponsor this.
Okay, before we go around, there's one huge caveat here.
Okay.
In the event that these submissions are unacceptable to us, the commission, totally unacceptable, there's no provision in here for that. Now, it's a hard call, but they could be so wild that we just can't foresee any of them being our town signs. We need some kind of provision for that.
So one thought I had was maybe we could take one meeting where we would review all the submissions and only the ones that we want to advance to the next step.
Right. Now, also, there could be only 3 or 4 submissions.
Right.
And they could be totally way off the road, or only 2, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I think something has to be built in where they qualify.
Okay.
Now, one could also say, well, wait a minute. The commission shouldn't be able to say this qualifies, this doesn't. That's not my point. Either there's enough here that we do carry forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It isn't that we would disqualify anybody. Either we disqualify all of them.
Right.
Something in there.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good.
go ahead, John.
Well, my focus was going to be on that specific subject because, I would imagine 24 submissions would be a big deal on something like this. And so for 24 submissions, they would submit something that would be the final one that we would select, and that would be the town design. And I'm saying, no, we should not vote, commissioners should not vote on this at all. That we should take the votes as you described. For those who submit one, sure, they get 2 votes. For everybody else, 1 vote. And then that is submitted to the commission to consider with others on what to do. Because it may be that it's only 3 or 4 that were submitted, and it may be there's 26 of them, and, you know, it's a nightmare. And it ranges from, you know, a few sticks and a piece of cardboard to, you know, $100,000 deal. So we can have a whole range, and I'm not sure that we're ready for that yet. So I would want to have a little more flexibility in our ability to either decide or go forward with another approach.
I don't know that I understand what you just said.
All right, so it says here that commissioners get 2 votes. We shouldn't be involved in the voting of these submissions,
Yeah, well,
however many we get.
okay, my thought was, all due respect,
Mhm.
I think everybody gets 1 vote. I don't know that there should be preferred, you get 2 votes, I get 1 vote. To me, we're all equal in voting, but that was just my thinking. But I want to go further on, not the voting, but what were you saying about?
So what I'm saying
other
is,
part.
because we can have, I don't think we'll have more than 2 dozen submissions. I can't imagine that we'd have more than 2 dozen.
Well, I don't,
Agree.
I do agree. Oh, I don't think we'll get that many, but who knows?
I don't. We may only get 3 or 4, but I would expect somewhere.
That was
in-
my big concern
dozen.
also, but go ahead.
I just
further.
didn't want those dozen submissions, honestly, to be the rule for the town. Okay, because a lot of the town isn't involved in this. And yet, I don't want to be forced to have to pick one of those.
Oh, so you were thinking if none of them were any good, what do we do?
Then it is up to us to decide to reject them and then find another approach.
Well, okay, we were kind of on the same wavelength then. Saying we have to make a determination as to whether we do end up having the contest based on what we get in. Or not.
Well, I think we should do this request without question. It's just that I don't want to be committed to have to approve one of them. Because I don't know if any of them will be any
I
good.
don't know that we're quite saying the same thing. What I was saying was that if we don't get anything in that we think is worthwhile to be a sign for our town,
Okay.
we should not then have a voting contest.
Oh, okay. Well, that
In
was,
other words, we could get only 3 or 4 in and they could be really out of whack for our town.
so you're saying get the designs and then submit them for votes.
Correct.
Oh, I was thinking it was the opposite, that, you know, everybody's going to submit their designs and they'd be voting on that and then it'd be presented to us.
No, I'm saying that I love the idea of having participation from the town,
Absolutely. I would love- It makes our job easier.
but I'm fearful of having the townspeople vote on a design if the designs they're voting on, we as a group think are just totally
Terrible,
off the wall and inappropriate for our town. Then we're going to be stuck with a sign that we don't think is appropriate for our town.
Yeah, so why don't we qualify them? So we gather all the ideas and then we have a meeting where we only bubble up,
Right.
we only submit for town voting what we think could really be viable signs.
Yeah.
Like put an
Okay,
interim step
that's
on
what's
there,
not-
like
what's
the
that?
ones that we
What-
think, if there are, let's say there are 24, but there's really only 4 that the 5 of us
That
would
make the
ever
cut.
think, you
Somehow they
know.
got to make a cut.
Yeah, so
Right,
so I can add a step there, a qualifying
Exactly.
step
That's the
that
step.
says, and if, let's say we get 24 and, you know, then none of them are really great, then maybe at that point, we would reach out to a design company and we would have our own design,
Right.
the commissioner's
Yeah,
design,
but-
maybe.
but I mean,
that's
hopefully
bubbled up,
half of them are
viable.
reasonable,
Mhm,
and then that's great.
right,
But my
we don't
fear
know.
is that if
Right,
we went
right,
this way, we have to then let everybody vote on them and we
Right,
could end up
right.
with stuff that, you
Okay.
know, this is our town sign.
Right, right. Yeah, so adding a qualifying,
Some kind of
Step.
qualifying feature
Okay.
in there.
okay,
Mayor, why can't we do a hybrid whereby we have already selected our own 2 or 3 designs that we like, even just just something we discuss and not employ a firm, and then have the other slot for 1 or 2 resident submissions?
Well, there's an interesting thought.
Because then we
Let's see
have,
what we
and then
get.
have people
Let's see what
vote.
we
We
get.
may
Okay.
get some real brilliance
Sure.
this way and not have to go that
Right,
route.
that's true. We have a
Right.
and
number
we
of,
can submit ideas. Like, I'm
Sure, we
thinking
can.
You know,
I
the
mean, I
5 of
got an
us could
idea
also
and I'll
submit.
submit one. You
okay,
know, they just won't know it's my name. That's
Right.
all. I
Sure.
mean, I think when we do send out the ones for the contest, we will not put names on them
Right.
because
No.
we don't want friends voting for friends.
and secondly, I strongly feel that everyone gets 1 vote.
I'm with you on that.
That
I mean, I
really, we
said
have
that.
to
So I
be
guess
careful. No one's better than anyone else in
No.
town, whether you're
vote.
mayor or the newest guy in town. We
Yeah.
all get 1 vote,
One vote.
except the commission, maybe we don't vote at this level. So. one
So the
vote.
rationale, just to
You know,
give you a
if
little.
we're going to go through a qualifying thing, we probably should not vote.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted, and you guys could totally squash this idea, but the reason why I wanted the people who submitted an idea 2 votes is because I'm thinking they're gonna vote for their own. And I wanted to know, okay, once they voted for their own, what was their second choice? Because I thought that would be a better way to see what is the, you know, a more popular vote. Because I would think if you're submitting 1, you're gonna vote, and I'm thinking also the people who are most likely to vote are the ones that submitted an idea. So what if there are 10 ideas submitted and 10 people vote and they all vote for their own? Then we're not gonna know which.
Well,
I
that's a-
understand, but you
That's a
get the-
brilliant idea because if there's
Yeah.
a tie, you can
Okay.
then add first and second to get a winner. Also,
You could, but I'm concerned about people who say, oh, I'm not an artist or an architect, so I can't submit. And why should they get more votes than me? We're gonna
But
get
anyone
that.
can submit, you just snap a picture and
Okay,
email it.
well, I still think
You don't
1
have to
vote's the
draw.
best
All right.
methodology.
Evelyn's been reaching here.
I'm gonna go back a step and talk about who gets to vote. And I'm not even talking about commission or not commission or 1 vote or 2 votes, but who? In a regular election, you've got to be a resident. But for something like this, I see no reason why we shouldn't let people who, this is their vacation home. They have a stake in this town too. They pay taxes and they should be involved, and this is not a legal
Yeah, I agree.
thing. So everybody should get a vote,
If you own, you vote.
or you rent, you should be able to vote.
A resident.
Well, how
I
do you
thought,
prove your rent?
I thought it was
So-
resident.
Show a
So
lease.
if you have a lease, a
How do you-
3-month lease
Right.
that you have on an ongoing place, you're saying you want to let them vote.
How do you
I'd like
how
to
do you
see-
validate that?
Yeah,
You
but,
Submit
send in
their-
a copy of your lease?
but I'd like to see people voting, period.
Yeah.
I
mean, but
also
we
think
can't-
that
we
2
can't-
weeks,
We can't
because we're,
validate leases. I mean, you
because we're
can-
going into where it's not season and people aren't going to be here and they may not pay a lot of attention to things, or the mail may not get forwarded properly.
You
I-
can't contact them.
Think it has to, well, all right, I'm willing to give up the leases part. I moved
Okay.
on from there.
Okay.
That's not a sticking point. But I think the time frame of 2 weeks is
Not
a
enough.
little short.
Not
Okay.
enough. Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long?
Yeah, maybe a month, a month to submit and then a month
Sure.
to vote after we
Okay.
present.
Sure you don't want 2 years? I mean.
No, but we have to give, people go away.
No,
You
you're
have to
right.
give a reasonable
You're absolutely right.
time period. I
Which means we have to contact them by mail.
Right. Part of what we have to do and how we can limit some of this is giving dimensions. No bigger than this, no smaller than that. So you can, by doing that, eliminate some of the really crazy out there signs.
And cost.
and cost. Yeah,
No, size
You
and
know,
cost.
if we say, okay, it's got to be a rectangle or a square and no bigger than a bread box or
No,
whatever.
absolutely, for
But,
sure.
but so then you keep a handle on some of what you're going to be doing, because if it's limited in size, it's limited in what can be on there.
Mayor, also, are we including eventually the monument sign out front of Town Hall after the station is built? Will that follow as a similar design, or how do we want to handle
It
that?
it would, it has to have a similar look and feel for consistency.
Right,
It might
okay,
not be the same in size, though.
sure, okay, but we will tie that in eventually, but it's
would.
not
Sure.
part of this process.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, it would.
So that might be good to mention.
Right, would it,
So-
yeah,
So it's the monument for the fire station you're saying?
no, for the town hall, if you'll notice,
Oh,
we
oh,
have the
oh,
one
yeah,
out by
yeah,
this. So
okay.
when the fires, we had
Okay.
discussed previously,
Gotcha.
when the station was completed,
Right,
we
right,
would,
Yeah.
why work on that in the midst of a massive construction?
Exactly. That's
So
where
it's
we
like a
put all that
So
bonus.
just
in.
tie it in as an after
Yeah.
project.
What do we do if there were virtually no votes or one per?
Then we choose. It still
I
goes
mean,
back to
you know,
us, right?
it-
We would cancel,
Because-
we punt. I mean, you say thank you and you move on.
Yeah.
Find another way.
Then we
Yeah,
would-
this is the way to get residents.
Then I
to
would
get
call
involved.
Rodrigo and beat him up and say, you have to do this.
Well, I think part of our mailing might be to include examples of signs that we've seen and say, this is just for inspiration, that something along, these are other signs we've
We could
seen.
include the ones that we've already rejected.
Well, yeah.
Or
Well,
just
but we
include
can
our own
include-
sign, just
Except
include
we
our
can
own sign.
include them based on size. So that people get a feel for what the size restrictions are.
But it's similar to ours. I mean, it's not that much different from what we currently have, correct? The specifications of what the new sign would be, it's not
Well,
much different from
you
what
know,
our current signs are.
The current size doesn't mean we have to replace it with that same size.
Right.
Yeah, and
You
the
know, it
south
can be
side,
larger.
But it
can be
doesn't mean we
higher.
can't replace it with that same size either.
Yeah,
and the south sign is a lot different than the north sign.
right. No,
If you looked at, they're not exactly the same.
they're similar. I mean, I
Very
haven't measured
Yeah,
them.
you
They're
wouldn't
similar.
know.
Yeah,
I didn't know they were
The
different.
south side is smaller.
Yeah, but the new sign could be rectangular, it could be square, it could be oblong, it could be circular. We can be creative about this, but we can tell them it can't be more than 6 feet tall, it can't be more than 10 feet wide. We can come up with those kind of measurements. But
6
you don't
feet
wanna
tall and
box
10
them
feet
in.
wide.
I'm making up. a number, I don't know what the
Wow.
number is.
I'm thinking, oh my God.
But,
But you had specifications.
for
didn't you, Marshall?
example,
Oh, I thought you did.
somebody could come up with a wave design, or somebody could come up with a turtle or something. I don't know.
Commissioner
You don't-
Schumer.
You don't want them to be thinking only this.
So you want to give square footage?
Huh?
Maximum of square footage?
No, you want them to just think broadly. Don't,
Yeah.
we don't tell them what
Have we beat this
materials.
subject
We'll,
up
Yeah.
we'll figure out how to make it.
Mayor?
I can
Yeah.
include a
Pardon.
picture of our current sign so that people, there's no confusion on what we're talking about, it's those,
Mayor, the north sign has been there since I moved here 31 years ago. The south sign was destroyed by a car 18 years ago and replaced, which is why they're different.
Well, then they're pretty new.
They are.
Yeah, right.
We should table this then, right?
That's it.
Okay, so I mean, I'll work with Marshall. We'll come up with some measurements and we'll give them to you. to
Yeah,
put in.
and I'll work on a more specific communication plan and, but you want, so just to clarify on the votes though, you want everyone to get 2 votes? Anybody who, maybe anyone who wants to vote, 2 vote, I'm sorry, anybody who wants to vote 1 vote? One
Yeah, one
vote,
apiece.
1 apiece.
You could do it in, kind of build on it, see how many you get first and then make some of those calls too.
Okay.
If you get a ton of them, then you.
And commissioners don't get a vote,
Well, if we are going to go through the process,
qualify.
then I don't think we have the
Okay.
right to vote.
Okay, got it.
We agree?
I agree.
Yeah, well,
Got
it.
I agree in that I think that if we get 24 designs, you can't give people 24 designs to vote on. Because that.
Yeah, we'll
becomes-
qualify them. Yeah,
That
we'll,
becomes
we'll-
cumbersome.
right.
Right.
Yep.
So if we're gonna whittle it down, then we've already essentially had our vote.
So I don't think we or our families should vote.
Or our dogs.
My
They-
kids.
Their dogs don't get to
cats.
vote.
You get
Cat
too many
shares
votes. then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, well, that was fun.
Okay, let's move on.
If I may, I just have a question and kind of, I'm not sure with the voting process, how we're going to be able to capture who votes. So if we post it on the website, essentially anybody that comes to our website will be able to vote. We won't know if they're a resident, a non-resident, a voter, a renter.
So I guess I was thinking when they sent the email, like, so the way to vote is to send an email and it would require an address. Whatever address, because if they are renting, they would have an address. They would have to have their name and an address. And
You have a difficult assignment.
Yes, I just have to figure out the logistics of that because right now, how we've historically done it, we just put up a question sent either through our email communication or on the website, and it just captures who votes yes or who votes no. I'm not sure we're going to be able to put your name, your address. If you're a resident, then I'm going to have to go through and verify if they are a resident. If they're a renter, how will I show that they're a renter? I just think the logistics may get a little confusing
Okay.
on that part.
I'll work on that. I don't know if there's like some Google form or something that I can create and it'll,
I don't know if we have to worry about.
yeah, I'll work on that.
Okay,
I'll-
and we can work
yeah,
together.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
I can possibly help with that as being verifying and for another matter.
But if
I
you
can give you some-
pre-qualify, it may not matter if you pre-qualify it.
Don't we just need a name and address?
I think so. A Google form that has the name,
A
address,
physical
and then what they're
address.
voting for. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I'm not too worried if people we have extra votes,
It's going to be a
we'll
challenge.
be all right. We'll be all right.
I don't think you're going to have 8,000 votes.
Yeah.
Okay. So-
That's what I think too.
I don't think too many from Boca are going to be voting on these
Right,
signs.
right.
All right, this is fun. though.
Thank you.
I think
Okay.
we get 200 votes, it'll be a lot.
Yes. I
Okay,
agree.
let's move on. New business. Going to turn this one over to you, Marshall. It's on page 27. This is to execute the pre-construction agreement.
Thank you, Mayor. As we were indicating before, as part of the construction manager at risk, it has multiple phases, if you will. We generally are getting to a guaranteed maximum price is the language that you generally hear at a CM at risk. But in order to get there, we have to design to get there. So the idea is you take one piece of that comprehensive contract, you pull it out early, call it pre-construction services, which is generally in addition to your guaranteed maximum price. So we're just doing this now to bring Kaufman Lynn, who we've entered into negotiations with, to help us on the front end of the project, to really sit down. So as the designers go through, as Sam and his team are like, wouldn't this be great? We have somebody to say, that'd be great, but it's going to cost you, 40% more than this product. Or we get into it and he's got all the steel on the project and they're like, steel's got 18-month backlog. You may want to check. So that's basically what you have here is that first little piece. Again, that's 10,000 a month for 6 months to sit in. There's specific deliverables that are mentioned and outlined in there when they're going to do scheduling, logistics, price estimates. So really, they're going to start building the budget and timing as we get through these unique stages of design. So we'll know and I'll be able to tell you all like, hey, the cost is here at this point. It's going to this point. We had to change from this to this. We can then get to a point where in 6 months, we've come to you with a guaranteed maximum price or a stipulated sum, depends on what we want to do. I think there's some value on both sides of that. It's basically the same thing. Less paperwork and less of our involvement in a stipulated sum than a guaranteed maximum price. But nonetheless, both are options out there where once we agree with Kaufman Lynn at whatever X price is, it's on them. So if they can't deliver it as they said, it's on them. They eat it. So that's why I want to bring them in early so we know what we're all working on the same project. This isn't a gotcha politics where we want to try to set up Kaufman Lynn or the architect or us. we want to get to a point where here's a project that we want that satisfies our needs. They can deliver it at a time and a price we're willing to pay and accept. And there we go. So this is just the first phase to bring them on board to work with the architect. In our internal team, we need this. That doesn't make any sense. Does it have to be there? Can it be put here? Those type of things. And they built tons of fire stations. Sam's done a ton of fire stations. And then I'm the brake on the engine saying, come on, it's a small station. So kind of all balances out there.
Okay, John, you want to start it off? You had some questions.
Sure. Just a minor trivial note on the very headline. Pre-construction services agreement. Put a T on it, on the word, or at least mine doesn't have a T at the end of the word.
Oh, wow. Yeah, thank you.
So I see this as a pretty comprehensive, well-written PSA, professional services agreement.
So long.
I see it as a 6-month defined term for services, consulting. You have a scope of work. I don't necessarily see deliverables identified. Is that something you would normally include as an addendum, amendment, or what?
Basically what we were working off of the original proposal documents that are also by reference here. And basically, there's some other stuff that basically we're going to look at a 30%, a 50%, and 100% design. Those are 3 major significant pieces. And at the end of each month, they deliver a sequence of events. Here's the schedule, here's the cost, here are concerns. And then there's an internal group that's sitting and watching this come back out also. So
I think I would just ask, in that case, you do have deliverables. They are significant. You are following the CPM, which is important in all of this, and those deliverables. I need to see how that relates to the CPM schedule. That would be my suggestion, because otherwise I see this as, excellent. I certainly think that working with this firm is something you feel good about, have experience with. You've had a lot of conversation, discussion, and verification, references, blah, blah. But that would be my most important suggestion, is on the deliverables. Now, the only other point I would ask, just for everybody's sake, is anytime I look at this, is in the event, worst case scenario, that there's a problem, you have a good description here of in the event of termination for convenience, as well as termination for cause. Can you give me your perspective on the potential for that? Have you ever had to cancel one for either convenience or cause?
in my career, yes, for cause. It was on a paving project and I had to pull the trigger because they couldn't deliver. I don't think we're going to see that here, but there could be, again, if the market doesn't settle, I'm not saying like settle, like it has to, everything's back to what we would call our old normals, but it can't continue to escalate month over month at 8, 12, 15%. We might find ourselves, and this is what I was going to lead into, is I think Kaufman and the architect know the seriousness of purpose of the commission and myself when I talk about these things. This isn't an open checkbook that we get to build whatever it is that we want to build. There could come a point that if it gets to, we keep on coming up with budgets and deliverables, there could be, I don't think we're there yet, but there could be a scenario where I have to come to the commission and say, either we got to put a stop, we got to stop, we got to call timeout, and we need more money, or we need to regroup. And the reason why that would be is what we were authorized to spend is not just for the station. We got to buy equipment, bunker gear, mattresses and bed. I mean, all this random stuff, drugs, everything, all the startup stuff too. We can't run into a point where we spend it all on the fire station and then what do we do with all the other products? We can't do that by our charter limitation. So there could be a point where I don't think we're there. I really don't. But that is a plausible reason for termination that we may get to where we just can't. But this gives us the ability that we don't ever enter into the CMA or risk if we get to that point, because we'll know what it's going to cost at the point where we say go for it. We'll know what that price is.
Yeah.
Especially if we do a stipulated sum, which they may like or not like at that point in time, even though it's been mentioned. we won't know until what is that number? Because right now it's all spaghetti on the walls based on past projects until we get into how much concrete, how much steel, how many windows, how much roof, what's our roofing system we're going to select. Until we get there, I don't know, but that could be a reason that the project's too big for what we initially anticipated. And that is not going to be driven by anything we could have anticipated. When we started this, we had no idea that we were going to run into this inflation buzzsaw. There's no way. So,
And whatever that is, I mean, honestly, we were just talking about, and I described it as that's worst case scenario. I mean, clearly, like anything else in the way of fine print, it's got to be in there.
if they don't
But
deliver,
it's
that would be another
straightforward.
for cause. If they don't deliver, if they said this has got to be here and they keep on, they're delaying, I don't get that impression. But if that was, it'd be a reason to say this
So-
isn't going to work.
And you just said it. I think the most important thing we can do here is define the deliverables.
Mhm.
That's all. Otherwise, I'll pass on it.
Ev?
After hearing the answers to John's questions, as long as that's worked out, I'm okay with this.
Peggy?
Two things that are very, I think, very commendable. First of all, thank you, John, for bringing up a few things. I want to thank everyone in Marshall's team for hiring a Palm Beach County firm, because that is important for our county and its growth. After having attended meetings at the league last week, it was 5 hours of meetings, and I'm going to assemble my notes and get them out to all of us so we're updated on the state of the county. Sorry, I'm losing my voice because I've been talking too much. So pardon my voice. So I'll have that, but it's terrific that we've got a local county firm. Secondly, I think we are all aware of the climate and the supply chain, and can't get a truck or a boat or piece of furniture these days, or cat food. So we will work as best we can with this scenario. It's just what it is. And I have full confidence in Marshall and the company and our team and our commission. I think we're really going to have an outstanding situation.
Well, our commitment to the electorate is $10 million.
Totally.
And we're going to do everything we possibly can to stay within that 10 million.
Right. And we will. I'm
And not short the product,
correct.
obviously.
And lastly, I did some look into Kaufman. They have fabulous reviews, awards, nominations. They're very well thought of. So I just had to add that in. Thank you very much.
Natasha?
Yeah, it looks good to me. It's an important function, as we go, it's an expertise that we don't have. So I think it's critical. So I think it's good.
Good. I had two quick questions. Page 29, item 2.2.6 refers to a P6 format. Can you advise me what that is, please?
P6 is just an industry term for the type of program we use for scheduling.
And like, what is the schedule?
Scheduling, when we schedule out deliveries, our overall construction schedule. But in that schedule, it's very detailed in, we have long lead items. If doors are for some reason 9 months out, we have to make sure that that's on our schedule on X date to schedule the doors for delivery 9 months later. And that way we know to bring in the contractor who's going to install those doors 9 months later.
Okay.
So it's just
That's just your standard scheduling program. Gotcha. Okay. One other quick question. Stay up there in case it falls in you. It's on item 7.6.2. Hourly costs of the construction manager's employee or consultant who will actually perform the additional services based on employees' work wage rate, prorated, blah, 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 10%. Why are we even dealing with that if we're under contract with them?
it's 762.
7.6.2. If we're under,
That's for additional services
It's an-
outside the scope.
those are
maybe.
for services beyond scope?
Additional services, if this city staff, we won't do anything without direction from city staff and you and the city staff. So if city staff for some reason said, hey, we want to bring in site testing, somebody to come in and site test.
Which would be outside of the scope of our contract.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and some of that also, this is difficult too, because we have a pretty extensive or comprehensive scope with the architect, like when you said sites. So basically they'll be there and take the reports from the site study, but if we needed something additional work done and we needed to be out there, Kaufman was going to do it for us.
Boring or
As
anything.
long as
Yeah.
it's above and beyond
Yes.
contract scope.
It's
It's an
above and
option
beyond.
for what we don't
Okay,
know.
I got
we
it.
might need.
Just don't do it then.
Right. You know me.
I know you. Not a problem. He can rub nickels and get quarters. So
Okay.
we're okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Sir, just for the record, can you please state your name?
Oh, yes. Ryan Ryder, Director of Government Relations for Kaufman Lynn Construction.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm good on it. Can we have a motion, please?
I move that we accept the professional services agreement for pre-construction services from the construction manager at risk. RFQ number 22-001.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So be it. Thank you. Okay, we move on to comments. John, it's all yours.
Okay, actually, I have a few this time. I have now visited many of the condominiums in the town of Highland Beach in my search for my new home, and have now spent time on two different condominium complexes, one on the east side, one on the west side.
Is that a good thing?
And it's a good thing when you look out on the beach. It is a great thing. And you see the spectacular view that you could spend 16 years, as I have, living in a town of Highland Beach and never see the ocean. Unless you walk across a dune and you have access. But when you are able to see it every day from a height of the 8th floor, it's a whole different world. Now, what I recognized, however, is when I get up early many times just to see the sunrise, and I see these women walking along the beach with flag sticks and whatnot. And I said, I think there's a turtle there. And as they came up, they spotted it and they flagged it. And actually there was 3 turtle sites that they identified that just in one morning. And I'm looking at these ladies and they got to be in their 60s for sure. I mean, and yet they would walk that whole distance of the beach. And I got to tell you, I was really impressed. And I know they've been doing it for years. And they do it every day and every week. It's unbelievable the commitment they make. I wish we could do something for them. I mean, I think it's a real asset for the town. And I'll tell you why. Because an hour or two later, what do I see coming down this beach? With tractors. And now we open up this whole can of worms about tractors. And I can tell you, honestly, given we had some serious storm, the turbulent ocean, I mean, it was rough out there and it just brought in all this sour grass and it hiked up the depths of the sour grass on the beach about 2 feet. It was amazing just to walk through it. And it stretched as far as you could see, north, south. That's a lot of sour grass. And these tractors would come in, they try and rake as far as they could go until they overstuff and then they bury it and then they keep on going, they bury it. And they tried to do the best they could, certainly not removing it. And I'll admit, the next day, I was like, wow, that's impressive. The beaches are clean. But since I'm up high, I see where the sour grass went. That night, it went out and it was probably 50 to 100 feet offshore. And the entire ocean was, and I took video, was black with seagrass. So all it did is just push it back out. And sure enough, in the last couple of days, it's come back in and it's building up again. So this whole thing with the sawgrass is a nightmare. If you want clean beaches versus you need to feed the turtles and insects. I mean, and now I'm really understanding the difficult situation. The point in all of this is the beach raking is going to be an ongoing environmental issue. I can see that. Number one. Number two, I would like to see us do something for the commitments of these women who do the turtle site nesting locations, the location. Okay, next thing is, I understand, and I'm going to ask for Commissioner Gossett Simon's support here. there's a lot of activity going on up in Tallahassee with insurance for condos. There's also this whole thing about, well, we know that building safety and all of that's been pushed off. They're not doing it this year. But for some reason, they're acting on a bill to restrict property rights on cutting trees and shrubs and that sort of stuff. So do you have any information on any of that stuff that's going on?
A little bit. First of all, they've called another special session for the last week of May to address allegedly primarily the property insurance rates. And I personally know of people who have had their property insurance, not me, but tripled. People who are, not even Highland Beach, we're talking Boca Del Rey, the county. So that should be addressed, and they're aiming to resolve that in this special session. On the trees and the shrubs, it's not as it appears always. There are native trees and shrubs and grasses and whatnot, and there are the invasive. And then you have people coming in and clear cutting accidentally all the way into the ag reserve, into a neighbor's property. So they're trying to balance people's rights to have their homes and lands look as they wish with native plants. But this also will apply to commercial and developers. So if you come in and you buy 90 acres in, say, Northwest Martin County, and you just come in and clear cut everything down to the dirt and sand and muck, it's not a great thing for the environment. They have to weigh all of these concerns. So we're not just talking about Highland Beach or, a home in Boca Raton or a home in West Del Rey, which is bordering literally the ag reserve. They're talking about cutting into the ag reserve. They're talking about the whole state, commercial property and governmental, even airports. So I can bring back more in 2 weeks.
Well, it's called SB 518. And
Right.
I've been getting reports that it is going to affect property rights of condominiums and HOAs.
It will.
And that being the case, does it override, or how does it affect our ordinance that we have with code enforcement?
Well, we will have to see, because it's still that's the Senate side. There's also a House version that's less restrictive and less cumbersome.
So this is a whole area that's.
Yes,
coming.
so I can.
I
Marshall?
also asked the Marshal.
I'll take a look at it too, and I'll communicate back with everybody. Some
Great.
of the stuff that you were looking at too is those that are in like a gated community or an HOA of some sort, or a townhouse where your common areas or certain parts are considered held in common. You can't just go clear it behind your house because you feel like it. You kind of have to get the permission of the condo group. If you're in a platted subdivision like Bellito, it's on your property. Nothing we could really do. You got the flexibility to do it. But if you're in a condo and everything's in a common area, or it's considered a shared area amongst other, you can't just go and cut it down by yourself as an individual unit owner, or if it's a detached condo.
That's in existence right now.
Right. That's the one that you were looking at. I got to tie it down a little bit more for you, but yeah.
Because the condo associations, guarded or not, gated or not, still are restricted on cutting down their own trees.
But I'm thinking like something more like, say like a Boca Air gated community, right? So you have your property, but there are other things that come with living in that golf community. Your front landscaping is considered something that is regulated for each property to kind of keep that look and feel. And I think those groups kind of got upset with the legislator when they said, cut anything you want down. They're like, wait a minute, people spend money. We have a common appearance look in our condo documents that you agreed to when you build a home in here. Those are the ones they're talking about. We're in a platted subdivision like I live, Bellito. You can, do what you want because it's your property in its entirety. There is no common appearance codes or ordinances that regulate things.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but yeah.
Correct. That's a good synopsis, and it's got far-reaching, but we need to look up at the House bill too, because the twin
Yep.
House bill, it's less cumbersome.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it
Sure,
to
but we
the
can bring it
commission's
back and-
attention. That's all that this. is
Yes,
all about.
absolutely. I'm guessing they'll settle with a common sense position that honors everyone's rights. That's how it's been going
We hope.
with trees. Thank
All
you.
right, last point I'd like to make is the commitment to cooperation with the residents. I think since there was a reference to the last referendum, which I don't want to dig up, but I do have a lesson that I will share. My personal lesson is that in all of our efforts to wordsmith, questions, and just as we try to do with our vision and mission, I mean, everybody has a little twist on words and whatnot, but clearly the biggest single issue I see is the interpretation that was made by some was a lot different than what we intended. And the only way to deal with misinterpretations is to learn, try and listen to what's different and leverage that learning going forward. Because I mean, clearly I missed it in some of the questions about, I thought was plain and simple, but it was certainly not read the same way. It wasn't interpreted the same way, and it was twisted and turned into something that I didn't even recognize. So I just want to make the statement that from my perspective, we are listening, we are trying to learn how to do it better. What I heard before was just criticism without real suggestions or trying to work with us. But now I need to outreach more to make sure that we don't have a misinterpretation. And so that's a commitment I think that we're all trying to make. Thank you very much.
It's all yours.
I have nothing. I'm good.
Peg, what do you got?
Thanks, Mayor. Just checking in with Tallahassee earlier today. Our 3 appropriations are still alive and on the governor's desk. And we have a very fine expectation that at least 2 will pass. And the fire rescue being known to many people being the primary and our most important and our most needy. But we will keep you posted if we hear anything further. I'm sure Marshall will let everyone know.
If you give me his number, I'll give him a call.
Sure.
Tell him. Okay, anything else?
It's 411 help.
Oh, there we go.
411 help. Very good.
I love it.
Thank you.
Anything else? That's it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just good news when we
Oh,
can
yeah.
use some. So.
Longer it
Oh,
stays
I will
alive.
add, this is important. Some very fine residents offered to write the governor personally, and they did on their letterhead. Not me, that impressing him that we have never had $1 in 73 years, and we would really like his attention.
Great.
So if anyone else wishes to write the governor, now is the time in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Say, please, we're a small town, but important, and we need your help. 411 help.
Commissioner, just a question
Yes,
for
sir.
you again. On this, the Florida League of Cities, they have this annual conference coming up. Is that something
You guys go, yeah.
Yeah,
that we
that's-
all will
yes.
be there? And
Yes,
this is
sir.
coming up, in August.
Yes,
right?
it's fabulous. We're all invited. It's great if we can go.
And it's close to home. It's in Hollywood.
It's great, right?
Yeah. And our lead will be our town clerk, who was just given a proclamation.
Yeah, she takes care of it all.
All right, just wanted to
Yes, sir.
emphasize that.
Okay.
That's it.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Nothing from me.
Okay, just a couple of quick things. One, Chief, if you wouldn't mind, could you give us a sort of a set of metrics update on how the Marine Division is doing? And then it's new, we'd kind of like to know some of the metrics, how many stops they've made, how much education they're doing, kind of what's going on. I don't know. I know you don't have it at the top of your head. Maybe you could send something out to the commission. Just kind of keep us up to date, not forever, just, first 6 months and then drop it off unless people want more. I'd love to know how it's going. Okay.
Mayor? Could I just
sorry,
add a
yeah.
comment on that?
Sure.
Last weekend was Boca Bash, which is the annual crazy boat amalgamation in Lake Boca. Crazy. We don't go anymore. However, we were out back of our house, which is a little bit of a point, direct intercoastal, and everyone I talked to and heard from said the boats were way better managed. Extremely better managed. Speeds were down, especially that 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon where they're zipping north to go home.
Great to hear that.
And residents just came up to me when I'm walking the dog and say this. So I just want to add that in. And then 2 weeks prior to that, when one of the first weekends we were out, my husband said, please tell the chief, these guys are way better controlled out here, because he was out working on the dock and not getting pelted with waves.
Excellent.
So if that helps at all from our family's perspective.
Good. I keep getting, copies on emails of the work that Caruso's doing and you've been doing, and I'll continue to forward that on to Marshall so that you can all get that as well. But obviously, we're being heard, and it's great progress. So it's terrific. Well done. Okay, that's all I had. Hair attorney, anything? Great. All good. Okay, thanks. Marshall?
Nothing, just, we talked about vision, mission. We're actively in the alignment model of that, where we're working with each of the departments, making sure their action plans from the strategic priorities plan match their department operational plans. So those are all being aligned and will be reflected in our budget. So your direction will be carried out and aligned within the operation. So that's all being carried out. And Chief Hartman will be at our next meeting giving his annual hurricane talk. So we're almost there. So we will get prepared shortly, and Chief will go over all of our preparedness type planning and steps we're taking and being prepared for this hurricane season.
One thing I forgot to add, back to insurance, property insurance partner.
Yes.
For condos, the insurance rates are jumping sky high, obviously. From my understanding, it's a low of 60% increases to a high of 150 to 200% increases in the main condo insurance. And it's basically, obviously, because of what happened south of us, but also many insurance companies have pulled out of Florida. So there's very limited competition. And I mean, some of the buildings are looking at really at rates that are double and more than double. Not just because they're increasing their coverage, just because the base rate is, they're skyrocketing. And it's unfortunate. And they got to do something in Tallahassee. And I believe that the key to getting these rates back in somewhat line is recertification. Because there's no reason for these rates to be that high if the buildings are recertified. Because that means the buildings are safe. And when the buildings are safe, they're not going to fall down. So there's no reason for these rates to be jumping that high. So I think the key is, at least in our town, we've been proactive, we've jumped on it. But one town doesn't make a state. So the other towns have to get moving.
You're absolutely right, because I know that we did experience that, and our rate did double. It went from 4 something to 8 something.
Yeah.
But that being said, part of that is because we had to go through Citizens for wind insurance. But we also had a structural engineer's report. So once all the work is done that was in that report, we can then revisit things. And the likelihood is that the rates will come down once the work is done. And then we would be able to go to someone other than Citizens. We can re-examine it. But until most of that work is done, they're not going to look at it.
I mean, I was talking with Weinroth about this. And I mean, I told everybody about my discussion with them, so I won't be redundant. But if we can get more counties involved to get their towns involved, that's the key, I believe, anyways. Because one town isn't enough, obviously. You were going to say something?
Yeah, just to add a little value to this, because I also met with a insurance executive to talk about this whole mess that's going on. Because it's affected both my condos that I'm associated with now. And it's the controllable that you're talking about, Mayor, really is the certification, and that's something we can control. But insurance is looking at more issues than just that.
Yes.
As I understand it, the storms are not just storms that hit Florida, it's the whole southeast US and Texas. That's a big factor. Secondly, is the potential for storms in Florida is always high. And I think you may have seen in one of the latest magazines, I have it, they show the southeast corner of Florida from Palm Beach down to Miami has the highest risk of hurricanes, storms, high categories. The other one that I learned that I didn't realize the magnitude of it is the amount of fraud that's going on. There's an association of insurance companies that's working in Tallahassee with this legislature to figure out how to deal with the fraud. And the fraud is straightforward. It's when you have a loss, and it could be everything from your hot water tank cracks, leaks, destroys your rugs, floors, seeps up into the walls, and then you get mold. Well, if you don't use the associated insurance adjuster, but an independent adjuster, he comes in, they have all of their contractors that they work with. And so they're going to come in and take care of them. And so it includes what should have been just, hey, suck up the water from the rugs. It's now mold remediation, and it kind of goes on and on. And what normally would have been, say, a $5,000 loss turns into a $30,000, $40,000 loss. And this is happening everywhere, according to this one executive. And I was frankly shocked at the level of it. And it's well understood and known, but there's no way for the state to figure out yet how to deal with it.
But all those variables have been here. The only new variable is the collapse of the building.
True.
Okay. And that's what's caused these insurance companies to remove themselves from the state and leaving us with just a few, and they have increased their rates. That's the only change. All these other problems, the hurricanes, the storms,
The fraud.
that's always been here.
Well, that was going to spike it anyway, because you know that they've been leaving well before Surfside. They've been leaving the state for the
They
last
have.
few years.
No, they have. It's been less and less, and we've been fighting increases. And there have been different tricks we've used, we've been able to write 2-year policies as opposed to 1 to hold the cost down, things like that.
But we can leverage the fact that we have the ordinance and we can certify that the town is safe. And I think that is absolutely a great strength.
It's all valid, and we did that because, we have completed our recertification. We just finished it now for our electrical. But you're trying to get singled out as one, and the insurance company would, no, that's very nice.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, but you need bulk.
But you need to also be, given some recognition for the fact that there were some in this town who are against us doing this ordinance, thinking that, the state's going to do it and you're wasting time and blah, blah, blah. The fact is, the state didn't, we did, and we're ahead of the game.
Yeah. Well, they need to be educated. That's all. They don't have all the information.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Isn't the prevailing problem that I keep hearing both Tallahassee and locally that governmental officials are concerned about the forcing people to put into reserves and how to spend them? Isn't that,
yes,
because you're in, isn't that what you're hearing?
That's a very significant issue.
That's really the
And-
primary problem,
And
right?
the issue on reserves is people don't want to put money into reserves and build up what are called statutory reserves. I'm going to say a typical building that is 30 years old, let's say, their statutory reserves might be $10 million, let's say. Well, if you divide that by 100 apartments, you're talking about maybe $10,000 per apartment in reserves. Well, if you sell your apartment, that $10,000 stays there. So you as the apartment owner just lost $10,000. So they'll say, well, why do I want to put money in statutory reserves? There's no need. If we have to do a major project, you assess me for it. Or have not 10 million in reserves, have 250,000. So you use a little bit of the reserves and you assess me a little bit. Well, those that feel statutory reserves are required, they think that you need that money so that you don't have to do big assessments. Well, any building that is in good condition doesn't require all these big reserves because they're keeping the building in condition and they're doing the work as required. The point that we're making is that if you go through recertification, it means that you don't have big jobs waiting. And then in 7 years, you have to go through recertification again. So you're required then to keep your building up. Therefore, you don't need these big reserves. So my point is recertification takes care of the need for these reserves. So I also don't think that anybody in government should be spending any other taxpayers' money. That's not our job. I don't believe we have the right to do that. I think it's terribly wrong.
Yeah, I think
Sorry to
one,
make a lecture out of it. Okay, but
one
we're
of the
not,
reasons
we're
to
not here
dis-
to spend other
No,
people's
but
money.
no, I agree. It's just
Okay.
important to state
Yeah.
that seems to be the prevailing problem statewide and
Right.
in
Yeah.
Tallahassee. is
And
what
they
to do
should,
with
they
this.
should not be doing that.
No.
They should be focused on the health and safety
Right.
of the residents.
but that's part of
and
it.
Recertification takes care of it.
Some place that doesn't have recertification and you've got a group of divergent people in one condo and people don't want to have the assessment, they don't want to do the repairs, and then you have a Surfside because they didn't do the repairs because people argued over doing them and not doing them, and they didn't have the reserves to be able to do it without special assessing.
And they didn't have a recertification.
And they
program.
didn't, well,
Had they had it, then they wouldn't have had the problem.
except didn't they have it?
Yeah,
No,
Yeah,
Miami
no,
Dade.
they're Miami-Dade.
they have it. They still.
Miami-Dade
Every 40
has a
years.
recertification process.
then the town didn't enforce it.
The county didn't enforce the program. and
Yeah,
require- yep.
but they do have one
That is
down
a-
there.
Then they didn't enforce it.
Yeah.
That's their fault.
There was a 40-year one, which is far, a whole
Okay.
nother story.
Then the town was neglectful. They didn't enforce it. We would not allow that to happen in our town.
Very good.
Okay, everybody finished? Anybody got anything else?
All good.
At 3:27, we will adjourn. Thank you all.
Thank you.
What happened? What is it?
Talk enough for one day.
I have to tell you, that president of our condominium for 8 years would not hire an engineer because he said, we hire an engineer, he does report, we're gonna have to do everything they say in the report.